Hello, everyone. I hope we are all doing well. Um, Welcome to our today's class, the second lesson, the Power BI second lesson. And I'm hoping that we're going to have a smooth time and we're also going to understand our today's class, which is not complicated. Yeah. Uh, Kindly confirm whether you can hear me and whether the screen is visible. Am I audible enough? All right, thank you. Thank you. So we proceed to our today's class. And yesterday we did an introduction of Power BI. We were basically looking into you know, we went through a number of things in Power BI, the overview of Power BI, what Power BI is, the Power BI architecture, Power BI tools and components. We also looked into the building blocks of Power BI. Yeah. Then we went into download and installation of Power BI and also checked on the interface of the Power BI. Yeah. So those are some of the things that we checked yesterday, and I hope the class was well understood. Those were the basics of Power BI, what you really need to understand, or the basics that you're supposed to have when it comes to Power BI. And under Power BI architecture, if you can remember, we had three phases. We had the data integration bit, and under data integration, we talked about the way we get or the way we are able to integrate data sources into Power BI, how we get our data from the various data sources, then we are able to use it in Power BI. That is the data integration bit. Then we have the data processing bit and data presentation bit. So today we are going to look into the first phase, which is the data integration bit. And I hope we recall the main key component, or I mean, the key components of Power BI. Yeah, one of it was data sets. Like we have to have data. Data has to be there. Otherwise, you will not be able to, to draw insight. I mean, where are you getting data from? I mean, where are you getting the insights from if you do not have the data? So data is very important when it comes to Power BI. You have to have, and of course, when you're doing any analysis, you have to have your data. So today we are going to check into data integration, and under that, we're going to look into the different data sources in Power BI, understanding integration of Power BI data sources, the procedure to integrate Power BI data sources, data cleaning and transformation in Power BI, then the applied steps in modeling data. Yeah, so that is what we're supposed to cover today. So we go to the data sources in Power BI. And a data source is where data in a data set comes from. So where we get our data set from, that is the data source. And a collection of data can be imported in Power BI. I mean, that can be imported in Power BI is known as data set. And through the get data feature, we did an example yesterday, but we're going to go through that. Actually, that is what we're doing today. Yeah. So through the Get Data feature, Power BI users can select from a range of data sources, and the data sources can range anywhere from on-premise to cloud-based, unstructured to structured. Yeah. Then the new data sources are added every month, and data may be sourced from one or many different sources that can be combined together. So how do we get our data, or how do we upload, if I may use that word, how do we upload our data into Power BI? We usually use the um, get data feature. Now the get data feature will enable you to get your data from the different data sources. Yeah. And to source the data, click on the Get Data icon on the top of the screen, and it's going to give you all these data sources available for each category. Yeah. So when I click on the Get Data icon, it's going to bring me into a page where I have it's going to show me the different data sources available for each category. And under that, we have Power BI data source, all, Power BI data source file, Power BI data source database, Power BI data source Power Platform, Power BI data source Azure, and Power BI data source online services, and Power BI data source Other. Yeah, so that is how. Now let us go to the, now here we are. This is our Power BI desktop, and now this is the Get Data icon. Yeah. When you're supposed to click on the icon, then it's going to give you the different data sources that we have in Power BI, or where we can get our Power BI, I mean our data when you want to upload it on the Power BI. So as it loads, here we are. Now, under this Get Data, we have all, and the Power BI data source all has all the formats of data. I mean, all the formats of data sources. We have Excel. It could be from an Excel, it could be a CSV file, or a text file, an XML file, a JSON file, a folder, a PDF file or a PDF document, a Parquet, a SharePoint folder, SQL Server database. This one, the all covers every type or every category is captured. Every category is captured under the all Power data sources. Then we have file. Under file, we have the Excel, we have the text files or the CSV files, we have the XML files, we have the JSON files, folder, PDF, Parquet, SharePoint folder. So in case your data, the data that you're using is in the, it's an Excel worksheet, you're going to just select there, then it's going to take you to where your data sets are. Then we have the text file or a CSV file, depending on the kind of data that you have. Then we have under database, these are the different databases that we have here. So depending on where your data is, then you select where your data source is. Then we have the Power Platform, then we have the Azure, then we have online services, and then we have others. Yeah, other, we have web, we have SharePoint lists, we have OData feed, we have Active Directory, Microsoft Exchange, Hadoop files, Spark, and so on and so on. So those are the different data sources, but we're going to look into them in details. Yeah. So, I hope by now we know how we are supposed to load in, not even load in, we're supposed to get our data. Yeah, we use the Get Data feature. So then we proceed, understanding integration of Power BI data sources. So Power BI is an application that will help you connect, transform, structure, and visualize your data. So you're able to connect. This connecting means you're able to transfer, or you're able to load in your data into the Power BI. Then after that, you're able to transform and clean. Then you structure your data and finally visualize your data. So it gives you the ability to connect to multiple sources of data, therefore combining them to form a data model in Power BI. And the data source can be described as the pathway to the information you want to work with. That is the path to the file on a hard disk, or the URL to a database located in the cloud, and so on. So the data collected from these sources are integrated with Power BI, where you can combine them into data sets by cleaning and transforming them to build consolidated reports and charts. Yeah. So we have the procedure to integrate Power BI data sources. So what procedure do we follow, or how do we import? One, how do we import data in Power BI? Yeah. So to select and connect to an available data source of your choice, do the following. So you click on the home ribbon, yeah, and after that you select the get data icon. I believe we've done that, yeah, and it was clear, but you're going to, to repeat. And when you click on the arrow beneath the get data icon, a list of the common data sources shows first. So you realize when we clicked on the drop down list there, it gave us the list of the most common data sources. Yeah. Then click on the more tab to show the full list of data sources. So in case you want the full list of data sources, you click on the more tab, and, which is under the common data sources. Then the get data dialog box displays where the data sources are displayed and organized in the following categories, and we have looked into that. Maybe we just want to understand what are these different, different data sources. So under all, the Power BI data source, under all, in this category you can see all the available data sources of the Power BI desktop. So you get to, to see all the available data sources. Yeah, that is under all, the first category. The second category was file. And when you click on the file option, it shows you all the flat files supported in the Power BI desktop, all the flat files supported in the Power BI desktop. And the files include the Excel files, we have the text or CSV files, the XML files, PDF files, JSON, folder, SharePoint, etc. Those are, those are the files that we have. Under the Power BI data source database, this category shows you a list of all databases, yeah, all database connections that you can connect to any database. So that is basically a list of the databases. It doesn't have to be SQL, alone. We have quite a number of, databases. So the Power BI data source, the database category usually shows you a list of all database connections that you can connect to any database. And the Power BI data source entails SQL Server, Database, Access Database, Oracle. We have SAP HANA Database, IBM, MySQL, Teradata, Impala, Amazon Redshift, Google, BigQuery, etc. Then we have the Power BI data source, Power Platform. So under this, we have Power BI data sets and Power BI data flows. Yeah, so the data sets that we have in the Power BI, that is where we find them under Power Platform. Then under Azure, using the Azure the Azure option, you can connect the database in the Azure cloud. Yeah. So under Azure, you're able to connect the database in the under Azure cloud. And under this section, we have the Azure SQL Data Warehouse, Azure Analysis Services, Azure Data Lake, Azure Cosmos Database. Those are the databases under Azure. Then we have the Power under online services. The Power BI allows you to connect to different online services such as Exchange, Salesforce, Google Analytics, and Facebook. Then we have other. Under other, this category shows the various options available under other categories, which include Python script in case your data is supposed to be extracted from a Python script. You use, you go with the other, the other category. Then under other, you're going to get the Python script, R script, web. In case you want to get your data from, from maybe what a website, yeah, or an online repository. You use the web. You just copy the link and it's going to load in the data from that link, using that link. Then we have Spark, Hadoop files, ODBC, OLEDB, and Active Directory, etc. So those are the different uh, data sources that we have. And I mean, those were the categories under the different data sources that we have in Power BI. So after selecting your data source from the options listed, such as all file database, etc., click Connect, found at the bottom of the Get Data window to integrate your data to Power BI. So a connection window is shown specifically for the type of data connection selected, and credentials might be added where necessary. So this one, the connection window, is shown specifically for the type of data connection selected. So for example here, if I came here to select a database, so for example, if I selected as an SQL Server database, this means it's going to the connection box that I'm supposed to, the connection box will come differently or specifically for each and every, depending on the data source that you've chosen. Yeah. For example, for SQL, you have to have the credentials because you have to write. It's going to ask you the name of the server. Others will even ask you the name of the, after the name, you ask to give the password and so on and so on. So depending on the kind of data source that you're using, you're supposed to, the connection window will is shown specifically for the type of data connection selected, and credentials might be added where necessary. Now, for example, when you're opening an Excel file, you do not expect any you to be asked for any credential. It just opens. But for server, for a database, you have to give some credentials. Yeah. Then after that, we click on load. Yeah. Power BI will successfully import the file, and any errors will then pop up ready to be analyzed and fixed. If there are any errors in the data load, select View Errors to check any detected errors. Alternatively, close the pop-up and click Edit Queries to check for any errors. This will query and list the errors in the data. I don't know if you can recall our yesterday's class, we talked about something like ETL, extract, transform, and load. And we said when you're extracting, you extract your data that is from a data source, you import it into Power BI. After that, you're supposed to transform that data. And we talked about transforming data, where we said that is basically cleaning and just preparing the data preparation process. Yeah, that is the transformation. Then you're able to, after you transform, you load it for modeling. Okay, so if you go directly, you realize we have not captured transform here. But now when you go directly to loading the data, it's going to give you errors. In case there are errors, they're going to pop up, ready to be analyzed and fixed. But the most appropriate way is ETL. Just follow that procedure. Extract your data, transform your data, that is clean your data, then load in your data for modeling. I hope that is clear. So we begin. So we have an example here. Yeah, we're just going. I believe the data set was shared that we're going to use for this. And now we are going into we have loaded in our data, right? Now we want to clean and transform data. This is the T part of ETL. It is the transformation bit, yeah, which is very important. You have to clean your data. And now the Power BI transform data steps, the transformation steps can be performed in any order after importing data into the Power Query Editor. So data transformation, or yeah, of course, data transformation in Power BI usually takes place in the Power Query Editor. That is where we have the transformation taking place. Yeah, so we have something that, I mean, we have a procedure that we'll be following here, different things, yeah. And we first begin by importing data. How we begin the transformation bit, I mean, the transformation process. We import data. So today we'll be working on data sourced from Excel. And the first and foremost thing to do is to import the data from the source to the Power BI. To import data, follow the step below. And these notes are very clear. So when you have, I mean, please make sure after the class you just go through them. I'm sure you'll not have any difficulty because they, I mean, you're able to well understand the notes. Yeah. Um, Go to the home tab in the ribbon section. We have covered this before. Click on the get data. It will provide you with the options to source the data from a different platform, from the different platforms. And as we have our unsorted data in Excel, select Excel. So I come back here. Now, of course, I would choose to go with all or files because my the data that we are using is an Excel workbook. Yeah, so I just select this, then we are using this data sheet. Yeah, so it's going to load the data. As it is loading the data, so this is the procedure here. Home, under home we have the get data. Under get data we have the drop down list there. Then I mean, Excel is under the commonly used data sources. So you select that, then you click, I mean, you load in your data. Yeah. Then it will open a window to select the Excel file. So we have selected our Excel file that you want to upload from your computer. Then next, we have the navigator here. And the navigator page asks you to select the data sheets you want to work with. Yeah, so we have it here. Now we are here, yeah. So we have the navigator. Under navigator, we have the different data sheets. Of course, this is an Excel workbook which has a number of worksheets. Yeah, so this is what we'll be working with. And because we want to operate, or we want to use the entire workbook, what do? We select all the, we're going to select all uh, the worksheets here. Yeah, we just select all of them. Then remember we said, what do? We transform the data before we load in our data. Okay, so we just select transform data. Yeah, so here we are. So as we are intended to, because our intention is to sort our data, then we will go with the transform data option. And remember, if you click on load, the file gets uploaded without transformation, and that is not our intention. We want to go through that. Yeah. So the Power BI transforms, the transform data button takes you to the other window, popularly known as the Power Query Editor. And I have mentioned that, I had mentioned this, that transformation of data in Power BI usually takes place on the Power Query Editor, where we are able to clean and transform our data. Okay, so here we are. So this is the Power Query Editor here. Yeah, remember this is the title. We haven't, maybe we could save this. We could save it as main example. Yeah. So here we are. So this is the Power Query Editor. And just to understand how our Power Query Editor looks like, we can just go through the Power Query Editor interface just to understand. We have the tabs here. And under the tabs, we have file, we have home, we have transform, add column, view, tools, and help. Then we have the close and apply. Then we have the queries pane here. This is the queries pane. We have the formula bar here. You realize we have a formula here. So this is the formula bar. Then we have the table name bar. So you see, I've selected this 123 employee table. This is the name of that table, yeah? So this is the table name. The table name is indicated there, the table that you're dealing with. Then under here, we have the applied steps. And under applied steps, this will show the different transformations that are going to take place, yeah? It captures the different transformations that are going to take place. So under the queries pane, this queries pane, it usually shows all the queries of the data which our model is connected to. Yeah, it's either showing the queries that we are working on or the data that we are that our model is connected to. And in our case here, we have the model, I mean the data that we are using. Then we have the applied steps. As I've said, at the applied steps, we are able to, to record or capture the different transformations that are going to take place. Then the table name, this is where, I mean, as direct as it sounds, this is where the table name is. And in case you want to rename your table name, you just come here and rename it, or you just, um, select, I mean, you right click, then you can rename your table name either using here or here. Okay. Then we have we have under tabs, we have the under file. If we click file, these are the general customizations. Yeah, general customizations which are related to the query editor. Then we have the home, and this is the major option, can be found under this type. I mean under this tab. Like we have this, all these options are under the home tab. Yeah. Then we have under transform. Um, uh, this transform usually helps in transforming the existing columns, like changing the data types. I mean, when you have this, you realize we have all these changes, yeah, all these transformations. It captures, the transform tab captures the different transformations that can be performed on the, on your data. Then we have the add column. uh, this add column tab based on calculations. So under here, under the add column, you're able to perform different transformations. But under calculated columns, we have custom columns. This is basically concerned with columns. Yeah. Then under view, um, so under view, here we are able to turn on or off the formula bar or the white space. Yeah. So in case you don't want the formula bar to be there, you just deselect that. Yeah. And in case you want it to be visible, you just select that. Yeah. Then we have the help. Under help, you're able to, I think we looked into this yesterday. Yeah. And in case you want to learn anything, you can select any of these features here. Then we have the close and apply. So once transformation of the data is done, the Power Query usually loads the data into Power BI and apply all the recent changes. That means it's like you're saving. You want to close and apply, so you're trying to save the changes, then you close your Power Query editor. I hope that is clear, right? Now those are the features of the Power Query editor. So we proceed. We were looking into the, the different um, the difference, the different transformation features. So we have loaded we have loaded our data, yeah, into the Power Query editor. So we can begin maybe with one of the features, yeah, or one of the transformations could be changing the table name. We have talked about that. So our table name is either here or here. So if we want to change the table name from here, we just right click and rename. It is that easy. So we can give it the name employee details. So these are some of the, and you realize, of course, when you change the name here, it's going to change here, yeah, as well. Then we have this table as well. We can rename this as January date sheet. Yeah, I want us to rename all these. This one could be February date, sorry, date sheet. And this one can rename it to territory specification. Yeah, so there we are. We have renamed our tables. And now you realize once we rename the table, uh, any transformation that takes place on your data set is usually recorded under the applied steps. And that is why we have the change type, we have the promoted headers, we have first, of course, first we loaded in our data, the data source, then we went into the navigation bar, yeah, and under navigation bar, we were able to select all the tables. Then we promoted the headers, that is, we were able to change, okay? We were able to rename, yeah? I hope that is clear. So we go to the next step, still under transformation. Maybe from our first table, employee details, we have our first row here is empty. I don't know if you can see that. So we have null, 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 null. Our first row is empty. So how do you remove the first row? Yeah. So if you want to remove the first row, you go to home, the home tab here. Then you select remove rows. So under home, you go to the remove rows, and under remove rows, sorry, that is remove columns. Remove rows, we have, we select top rows. And the reason we are selecting the top rows, it's because it's it's the first row from the top. So it's easier if we remove if we use the remove top row. Okay, so we select that, and it's going to ask you to give the number of rows. How many rows do you want to remove from the top? Yeah, we want to remove the first row. So the first row, which is 1, yeah, so we just specify the number, then we select OK. So our first row is gone, and you realize our applied steps has been updated. So removed top rows. I hope that is clear. We're just going through the different transformations that are, the general ones that can also be easily understood. Yeah, and I hope that is well understood. Then we want to replace null values. You realize from our data here, we have a number of null values here. We do have rows with null values, and we want to replace these null values with maybe 0, yeah? So let's try replacing a value. Say we want to replace all the null values in our data with 0. So we select all the columns you want to replace the value, then right click on any row containing the null values and select replace values, yeah? So what we do, we select all the rows. So all the rows with null values. Yeah. So we select all the rows with null values. Then, I mean, sorry, all the columns with null values. Then you right click on any row containing the null value. So we have that. We want to replace, and you replace it with 0. Okay. Okay. So we are supposed to we replace our null values with 0. And there we are. We have replaced with 0. Sorry, it should be replaced with 0. Okay, here we are. So we have replaced all our null values with 0. Yeah, so that is it. I hope we have seen that, and of course it has been captured here. We have replaced all the values, so whatever transformation that takes place, it's usually recorded. Then so we want to remove, that is, so we have replaced null values with 0. The other transformation that maybe we can perform would be removing unnecessary rows. So we want to remove all unnecessary rows to make our data more readable in the next step. So let's say we want to remove the rows that contain 0 in their data. So we have those rows that have 0 in their data. So what do we do? So we select the first column. This is our first column. The first column here, first name here, we select. Then the drop-down list by left click. So select that. Then you deselect all the items you want in your data sheet. Yeah, you deselect all the items you don't want in your data set. So what do you, I mean, we don't want anything with, for example, 0. Yeah, so what we do, we deselect our 0 here, and like this joy, you realize the joy here has 0. Yeah, so we deselect 0, we deselect joy. Um, who else has 0? We have Phoebe as well. Yeah. Then I think we can try and work with, then we have Gunther as well, who has 0. So we want to just remove all the unnecessary, I mean, any row that will not give us any information, we don't need it. Yeah. So we do away with that. So, okay. And there we are. So we have removed all the unnecessary rows. Yeah. Or then, so on the applied steps, it has captured filtered rows. I hope that is clear. Yeah. We are still transforming our data. Then maybe the other thing that we can do would be renaming the column headings. And of course, this is the most straightforward task in Power BI. Yeah, just renaming the column headings. So what do? You just double click here. Then you're able to do what? You're able to rename. Yeah. So maybe what do we need to? We can try and let's see what we can work with. Or the maybe the first name is okay, the last name would be okay. We can try and correct, or we just rename this to be employee code. Yeah. So that's it. That is the name, the new name that you've given to our header there. Yeah, employee code. So I hope that is clear up to there. So you realize still under our applied steps, it has updated that we have renamed a column. Yeah. So the other thing we can do is to separating into two columns. So we're going to separate. Now, if you want to split the name and the employee ID into their column, for example, you see here, we have under the last name column, we have the name and we have a code there, or yeah, that is the employee ID. So we want to split this column into two. So we want to have the name separate from the ID. What do we do? So we select the column, right click on the column heading. Yeah. Then a drop down list will appear, select split column. Then we go for by delimiter to separate the column or to split the column. So we right click here and excuse me under the drop down list. Then we look for split column. Under split column, how are we splitting our column? So we use the by delimiter. And when you select the by delimiter, this means that, so select or enter delimiter. So we can use colon, we can use a colon. That means we can separate our data using colon. So you can use a colon to separate the name and the ID. You can also use a comma, an equal sign, a semicolon, a space, tab, or you can even customize. Yeah, you can. So for us, we're going to customize that. We're going to select custom. Then, so here, if you select custom here, it's going to, you're the one to select how you want it to be separated. You can use other signs that are not under these drop down lists. Yeah, so you can use other signs. So for our case, we can use the we use that sign there. Yeah, so this is our separator, this is our delimiter. Yeah, then under this we have none, we select none. Yeah, so then we select okay. So okay, so you realize we have this column, the last name, it has been separated, like we have separated the column. I mean, we have separated the names from the codes here, all right, from the ID. So what you do, you just rename. So this one we're going to rename. I hope we recall on how we're supposed to, on how we go about renaming. So we're going to give it the name employee ID. Okay, so that is how we go about splitting columns. I hope it is clear. So you just click the drop down list. Of course, you right click the drop down list. Okay. So what you do, you right click on the drop down list, then you select the split column, and after selecting the split column, you go ahead and specify by delimiter. Then you specify, you're the one who knows how you want to separate your data, yeah, or how you want your data to look like. Then you just select okay. After specifying all those specifications, then it's going to give you the transformation. Yeah, so that was under separating into two columns or splitting one column into two columns. I hope that is clear. The other thing would be merging columns. If you want to merge columns, so what do? You select the two columns you want to merge. Then you go to add column, select the merge column, the merge columns option, then merge columns page will appear. Specify the separator and then you click OK. So we go, for example, if you want to merge, let's say the employee ID and the employee code. So the first thing you do, you select the two columns that you want to merge. Yeah. Then you go to add column. Under add column, we want to merge the columns. So if you want to merge the columns here, so how do you want to merge the columns? Do we use a colon? Do you use a comma, an equal sign, semicolon? You know which one works best for you depending on what you're doing and how you want to present your data, yeah, or how you want your data to look like. So maybe we can customize. Then here we can just put a hyphen, okay? So then so here the new column name, you can name the column the way you want it. Now the new column name, the new column which has the merged data. So we can just call it merged column, or because you're merging ID and code, you can just put it as ID and code column. Yeah, then okay. So we have merged the two columns, and where is the new column? The new column should be at the far end here. So we have merged the two columns and we have used a hyphen. I hope that was clear. I hope the procedure was clear and you are able to follow through. Yeah. So we are still under transformation, and we might not be able to capture all the transformations that you can be able to perform on your data, but you're going to go through the major ones or the most commonly used, most commonly performed um, most commonly performed transformations, and I hope we are following through. Yeah. So the other bit would be unpivoting the columns. So unpivot columns means to unpivot a column means to unpack the similar values and group them under a single heading. So you unpack the similar values and you group them under a single heading. So when we look at our unsorted data, we see that all the four columns, the north, south, we have the north, south, east, and west columns, show the same metric. Yeah. So this north, south, east, and west, they probably have the same measure. Yeah. We don't have, they are most likely to capture the same measure because we are talking about maybe it's longitude, maybe it's, yeah, longitude or latitude. So they are likely to capture the same measure. I'm just giving an example, yeah. So we do this. So therefore, if we want to separate it into two columns, so we want this data, because they are capturing the same measure, to be put into two different columns. The four columns to be put into two separate columns. Yeah. So where one column will show the region and the other one the cell. Actually, um, the data captured here are the different cells. Yeah. And we have now the regions. We have the northern region, southern, eastern, and western. So these regions are capturing the same metric, and we can unpivot these. And when we unpivot this, we are able to do what? We are able to come up with or separate this into, or yeah, somehow separate them and come up with two columns. Okay, because where one column captures the region and the other column captures the cells. We're going to see how we go about that. So how do we go about unpivoting columns? So if you want to unpivot columns, you select the four columns. We have the north, south, east, and west. You first select the four columns, then you right click on any heading. So then select unpivot columns. you unpivot columns. So you realize it has given us north, south, east, west, all of those and their cells. Yeah, it's like they have transposed the columns. They have transposed the columns and they have put the columns into two columns. Okay. Now we have the no. I mean, we have the region. Maybe we can rename this to avoid confusion. We have the regions. Okay. We have the regions and we have the cells here. The cells here. All right. Excuse me. So we have unpivoted the four columns into two columns. Okay. Yeah. So that is unpivoting columns. Unpivoting columns. Okay. I just hope that was clear. You just select the columns that you want to unpivot, and you have to make sure that these columns have the same what do I say? They have the same content, the same data type. Yeah, they are capturing the same kind of data. That is the only way you're able to unpivot columns, because they have similarities, they have something in common. So it was regions and we have the cells. Yeah, that is why we were able to unpivot them. And I hope that was clear. We are still under transformation, and you realize still under our applied steps, we have captured the unpivoting of columns and we have renamed columns. And in case you want to, if you cancelled this here, if we cancel this, the renamed columns, it's going to have an effect or an impact on your data set. Yeah, that means you're trying to undo whatever you had done. Okay, so in case, so you have to be careful that you don't just come here and just select anything or cancel anything. Yeah, because it's going to have an impact on your data set or on the transformation that you've already made. Okay, yeah, I hope that is clear. So we just rename these to regions. Regions, and these are films. Good. So we proceed. Um, what if you want to change the data type? Yeah. So if you want to change the data type, we select the column and right click on the column header. Then a drop down list will appear where you're supposed to select the change type. And now again, a drop list will appear with different data types. Select the data type according to you. Then, so in our case here, so for example, we want to maybe change the data type under cells here. Yeah, what do we do? So we select on, I mean, of course you have to select the column. So we want to, the column that we are dealing with right now is the cells column. Okay, so we right click on the drop down list. Then it's going to give you, I mean, there's that option of changing data type. Then under that, you're going to get another drop down list which has the different types of data. So you select the kind of data that you want to change into. So for example, you could decide to change our data into fixed decimal number. Yeah. So fixed decimal number here. There we go. And it has changed into fixed decimal number data type. Okay, that is how you do it in case you want to change your data type. I hope that is clear. Yeah, that is changing data type. Then we want to append queries. So appending queries, now let's move ahead with a bit of a challenging task here. And we have two sheets. We have the January date sheet and the February date sheet. And you want to combine both tables into a single sheet. So if you want to combine this, so we are trying to append queries. Remember, appending means joining, yeah? So we want to join the two data sheets here, the January date sheet and the February date sheet. So what we do, we select the table sheet in which you want to add rows. Then here we will add the February date sheet into January date sheet. So we first select, yeah, so we select that. Then after that, so you select the the data sheet that you want to add columns into. So we want to add the February date sheet to the January date sheet. So we first select that, yeah. Then we go to the Home tab. Under Home tab, we have the Append Queries. We select the Append Queries. Here are the Append Queries and click on the Append Queries. Okay, so there. So next, it's going to take you to the append page and ask you to select the table you want to append. So the table you want to append here, you just choose. We want to append which table? You can append two or more tables. So we want to append only two date sheets or two data sheets. Therefore, we have selected two tables. In our case, we want to append two tables, but you can be able to append, two or more, more than two tables. That is possible. So in our case, we are only appending two tables. So we select two tables here. Yeah, then the tables to append. So here we select the table that we want to append, and in our case here we select the February date sheet. Yeah, then okay, there we are. That means we have appended the January date sheet with February date sheet. And how did we go about that? We selected the our first date sheet, or the first data sheet that we are going to use, or the one that we are appending to, which was January. Then we went to the Home tab. Under Home tab, we went to Append Queries. Under Append Queries, we selected the Append Queries. Then it gave us a dialog box where we were supposed to specify the number of tables we are appending. Are they two, or are they more than two? That is three or more. Then you select the table that you want to append it with or join it with. Then okay, then it gives you such an appended table. I hope that is clear. Yeah, I hope that is clear. So that is the appending of tables, or appending queries, the appending queries column. No, the appending queries transformation. Yeah. Then the other thing would be conditional column. And the conditional column is similar to the if-else statement in Excel. So this means you're working with conditions. Yeah. It generates columns according to the conditions and the specified logic. And let's say we want to specify the country abbreviations according to the group they are in. So for example, we want to select the USA for all the groups named North America. So to do this, we follow the following steps. Yeah. So we're going to use this table, the territory specification. And what do we want to do? So the task is, we want to specify the country abbreviations according to the group they are in. Yeah. So we have the country here and we have the group they are in. Yeah. So what we do, so for example, we want to select the USA for all the groups named North America. Yeah. To do this, you follow the following steps. So, So we want to select, I repeat the task again, we want to select the USA under the country column for all the groups named North America. So we have North America here, and we want to select them that have USA. So we have the ones that, for example, if you, you check through your data, we have the first country, number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are under North America. But we have a North America group which has Canada. But in our case, we are so specific. We want to only select the group, the North America group, whose country is United States. Are we together? I hope that is well understood. That is the condition. Yes, we have the group North America. If we select if the country is USA. Okay, so how do we do that? We go to add column, and under add column, we have the conditional column. Then add conditional column. So it gives us this dialog box, and we have add a conditional column that is computed from the other columns or values. Yeah. So we still have to customize here. So what is our condition? If the country, yeah, equals, here we specify, if the country is United States, the country is United States, then the output should be USA. So the first task was we have abbreviations, yeah? So if it's United States, it's USA, that is the abbreviation. Then after that, we have to add a clause, yeah? So add conditional column page. The add conditional column page will appear where you'll specify the conditions. First, it asks you to give the name to give a name to a new column. So the new column name here, yeah. Then by default, it sets the name as custom if you do not specify any new name. Then fill in the condition according to your need and click OK. So, if country equals to United States, then it's USA. Then, let me see. We could add a clause here, else if the country equals to Canada, then we could give it a CA. Yeah, then okay. So then we have an abbreviation there. So we have abbreviations there. So United States, USA, United States, USA. Then if it's Canada, it should be CA. Yeah, so after that, we have search. Actually, the task was to specify the country abbreviations according to the groups they are in. And of course, Canada and USA were under the North America group, the Northern American group, the North American group. So we were supposed to give them abbreviations. And I hope we have, it's just the if statement or the if else statement, the conditional statements. Yeah. And you realize, of course, after every transformation has taken place, it has to be indicated there. Yeah, what you have done. Those are the applied steps. I hope that is clear. Those are some of the transformations that can be, that can be performed. There are many others, and that is why we have all these, all these transformations here. You want to transpose, you want to reverse rows, you want to count rows, whatever task that you have, or depending on how you want your data. Remember, this transformation is taking place on your data. We haven't even loaded it. We have not loaded it for for modeling. We're just working on our data. So we were trying to clean our data. We just want to have our, the table names clear, so that when it comes to, data modeling, you have perfect data. Okay. So those are some of the transformations that usually are, um, you know, are usually performed on your data. So it's you to know how you want your data to look like, the different kind of transformation that you can perform depending on the task that you're performing. Maybe, for example, maybe there's a row that you feel, not a row, there's a column that you feel shouldn't be there, or it's not going to help you when it comes to your analysis. So what do? You just maybe remove the column. Yeah, you just do away with it. There are rows you feel they are necessary, you just do away with them. I hope that is clear. Okay. So yes, so we apply all those changes. Good. So it's going to apply that. We go back to our notes so that we can finish up. Kindly go through that. It is very easy because the notes are so clear, and I believe this is something that is manageable. Yeah, yeah, you can do it on your own. So we go to the last bit where we'll be checking on the different. You see those applied steps that you are doing. Yeah, what they entail. Yeah, so that is what we want to cover right now. Then we'll be done with today's class. So applied steps in modeling data. So renaming columns. One, renaming columns. Columns from raw data can be difficult to read or meaningless. So why do we need to rename those columns? Renaming columns in your query to a meaningful name will make it easier for you and your audience to understand your data. So renaming of columns will help you understand your data. Remember, if I don't know if any one of you have ever participated in data collection, you just give it a name so that you're able to, you have captured the data. So it's upon the person who is going to do the analysis to know what the column name means, how effective that column would be, how important it would be. So they just give names. Most of the data sets have, just funny names, maybe uh, not so clear. So it would be important for you to rename the data, the column, so that it's easier for you, it becomes easier for you and your audience to understand your data. So there are two ways to rename the columns in Power BI. One, by either right clicking on the header of the column, which gives you a menu of functions that you can do to the column. I showed you that. And select rename to rename the column. So you can right click, then it's going to bring you the drop down list, and then you select the rename, you select rename to rename the column. And the other would be, you can also click on the column and then click on the transform tab, where you presented a variety of transformation functions for the column. From here, you can click on rename. That is renaming of columns. So we have the other bit would be adding and removing columns. Removing columns, often when dealing with raw data, you will find columns that are meaningless or unsuitable for your analysis. I have just mentioned that. There are those columns that you just feel, no, this wouldn't be necessary. Like the ones with indices, sorry, maybe you don't need such columns, yeah, or they won't help you with your analysis. So what do? You can remove these columns in query to eliminate clutter and streamline the data set, making it easy to work with. Yeah. So there are two ways to remove columns in Power BI. As in renaming a column, you can right click the header, which will present a menu with the option to remove. So if you right click, it's going to give you a menu. You choose remove. Then you can also click on the column, click on home tab, then remove columns. So you select your column, go to home tab and click on remove columns. Those are the two ways of removing columns. Then we have adding columns. So just as you would remove unsuitable data from your queries, you may need to add new columns to your data. There are a variety of options in Power BI to add different columns. So how do you go about how do you go about adding columns? You click on the Add Column tab to see the ways you can add a column. Okay. Those are just, the applied steps, how important they are. Then we have the navigating applied steps and undoing. We have gone through these. Yeah. So under this, it is important to know what sort of transformations the data has gone through to understand the current state of your data. So these steps are listed on the applied steps section on the query editor. And sometimes these steps might need to be moved up or down based on the required application. So these steps can also be removed by clicking on the red cross mark next to the step. We have seen that. In case you want to remove the applied step, you just click on the um, red cross mark. Red cross mark next to the step, and that one will undo the action it performs and returns the data to the previous stage. That is navigating through the applied steps. So you can either move the steps upward or downward based on the required application. And in case you want to undo your step, what do? You just click on the red cross mark next to the step. Then it's going to undo the action. Then refreshing data ready for analysis. Under this, always refresh your data when you're ready to do your analysis and visualization. Clicking the refresh option will refresh the data and rerun all the queries. This will show any issues or errors with your data or your queries and ensure that all data is up to date and ready for analysis. So this means after you have performed your transformation, you have to keep on refreshing your data so that, when you're ready to do your analysis and visualization, just to know whether the transformations were captured. Yeah. So when you click on the refresh option, it's going to refresh the data and it's going to rerun all your queries. The queries are the transformations that you've already made. Okay. And this will show any issues or errors with your data or queries and ensure that all data is up to date and ready for analysis. Yeah, please make sure you refresh. Just continue refreshing as you do the transformation, you refresh just to ensure that the transformations have been captured. Okay, and once all the required changes are done, what do? Select, close, and apply. Going back to the main Power Desktop interface, you select the close and apply, and then you go back to the main Power BI desk interface. So this is just what we have been looking in. So in Power BI Query Editor, all the shaping steps taken are reflected under the applied steps. So if you feel the particular action is not required, you can remove it by clicking the X present on the left side of the step. Yeah, so if you feel maybe you didn't need to change or rename that column, that particular column, you just select it and remove it by clicking the X on its side. I hope that is clear. Then as soon as you're done with the data transformation procedure, save the query, go to Home tab and click on the close and apply button to save the data. it is the final step that will load your data. I hope that is clear. Yeah. And that is what we were supposed to cover today. And I hope we have done justice on this. We have done justice what we were supposed to do today. And I hope it was well understood. Kindly do it on your end. Yeah. Kindly just make sure you do it on your end, practice it on your end for better understanding. And this is so simple. This is not, this is not programming. You just need to understand. You just need to understand how you load in. I mean, you extract your data from the different data sources, then you transform your data, and even before, maybe a step that we missed, or a step that we didn't go through, is the step of, before loading your data, or not even loading your data, extracting your data from your data source. Kindly go through your data, understand how your data looks like, so that when it comes to transforming the data, it will be easier for you. Yeah, you will know the where the null values are. You will know how, I mean, the columns that you might need uh, to do away with. You might need to just go ensure that if it's an Excel file, maybe you can just go through the Excel file before you extract it, or before you integrate it into Power BI. Then after that, you're able to perform your transformations. Yeah. And